No Man's Sky Endurance is surprisingly packed with new features and cool new things to do and see, especially in deep space. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the quality of life changes, the new deep space mining feature, and of course, some of the new organic frigates that you can recruit in your fleet. So let's begin. Let's get started, of course, with the new organic frigates. This is one of the main features added with Endurance, and basically this is kind of like the Leviathan, except you can find them randomly in space. Well, kind of randomly. You will need one of these items right here called the Dream Aerial to make them spawn in the first place. Now, to get a Dream Aerial blueprint, you first need to send your current fleet into expeditions. If you don't have the Leviathan from the Leviathan expedition, this is going to be rather random, so it can either drop or not at the end of a successful expedition. But if you did complete the Leviathan and did get the Leviathan organic vessel in your fleet, if you send it, it will guarantee give you one of these Dream Aerials at the end of its successful fleet mission. Once you do get it, it requires 3 living glass and 1 solar mirror to craft, and from that point on you can simply pulse in deep space, and eventually you're going to notice one of these new organic frigates spawning. Interacting with it brings you some nice dialogue options, with the final screen being the recruitment one that presents the stats, the class, and here you will make the decision if you want to include it in your fleet or not. Now, if you do include it in your fleet, you're going to notice a bunch of changes, one of which is the fact that it can be fed special types of items. I haven't yet encountered one, so I'm not really sure exactly how you gather them, but presumably they do affect their stats. So this is something that you're going to, probably constantly use the more you get those items. And not just that, if it does win its expedition missions, once it comes back, it does have a chance to also bring upgrade modules for your own living ship. So that's really nice, kind of shooting 2 birds with 1 stone right there. Now, speaking of really awesome changes, let's also go over some of the base building ones, especially since they are live right now on experimental on Steam, but they should be live by the end of the day on all other platforms. So when you head over into the build menu, you will notice that various base parts now have these kind of like yellow indications on the corner of their icons. Basically, what these indicate is the fact that now you can access an additional screen called the contextual view variants. This is basically what the game was kind of doing by its own in the previous updates, when you had no control over how a wall or a window would look like, because for some reason the game would decide on its own. Well, now you can expand it using the expanded view, and this will bring up 3 of the variants that previously the game would choose automatically, and now you can choose manually between them. So for example, in the case of regular walls, you no longer have to have a lower wall completely different than the ones on top of it, and the same goes, for example, with some of these windows. You can pretty much make a whole building with whatever window type you want to, which means that even for the same type of build material, you can now have 3 different outcomes. The same goes for some of the other doors, parts, and pretty much everything else in between, including for the freighters and their new parts, especially speaking about the freighter corridors. So these also have a similar feature where, if you go in and don't use the contextual menu, the game decides, depending on your camera orientation and angle, where the next part comes into play. Otherwise, you can choose manually and just pick the same type of structure over and over again. Since we are on the subject of freighters, let's also talk about some of the base parts that I missed yesterday, as well as the fact that you can actually get out in space. There are exterior modules now and platforms that you can place that let you walk in space on your freighter, which I think is really awesome. So all of these parts and more can be unlocked at your main deck area right here in the upgrade room, and specifically you have to access the base parts and the second page, which I missed yesterday. This is the one that includes all of the new modules and rooms you can unlock, and you will need 1 salvage frigate module for each one of them. You can get these either from like fleet expeditions by completing them successfully, from Nexus missions randomly, and also randomly finding them in crashed freighters. But luckily it only costs 1, and once you unlock them, there's a number of very useful modules that you should place right away. One of them is of course going to be the fact that we finally have yeah, access to a galactic terminal to do some trading from our freighter, so that's really awesome. Another one that I really enjoyed, and it's the planetary probe. So if you activate this from your freighter, this automatically scans every single one of the planets in this system, including revealing its name, its resources, so you don't have to manually do that with your ship for each individual planet. I think that is actually really awesome. But by far the most awesome have to be the new deep space mining modules that do exactly what they imply. So I've installed a number of these extractors on my freighter. They work automatically, and they will automatically harvest minerals that are specific to your current system. This is going to be, of course, dependent on the color of that system, if it's a yellow, a red, a green, or a blue. In this case, as you can see, this one is mining some of this chromatic metal and some nitrogen. And if you place more of these extractors, you will get a lot more, because each one extracts it individually, so you can, yeah, eventually just get it from all of them over a period of time. In this case, it's 15 per hour. It might not seem much, but let's say you played like a few hours, you come back, you have these extractors. That means hundreds of these materials that you no longer have to buy or to craft, or yeah, to combine on your own. I think that is also really nice. Overall, I'm really pleased with how it looks right now on my freighter. I think that there's a lot of options over there to kind of create a really nice and cozy base that you did not have the option to do in the previous updates, because some of these items and modules simply were not available on freighters before. And of course, the spacewalk is to die for. But on top of that, we also have a bunch of other upgrades for our freighters. Some of them have been revamped, but I'm only going to focus on the interstellar scanner that you obviously do need to unlock manually again at the same terminal. So normally, if you were to access the map menu from your freighter, one of the biggest bummers was the fact that we could not see the economy and the conflict levels of any of these systems, because we did not have a conflict scanner alternative for the freighter. Now we have it, and it's this interstellar variant that once you install, you're going to be able to go ahead and see all of these details for all of the systems, with the exception of the ones that have been abandoned. So that's, yeah, like the regular gameplay as well. Pretty awesome. But the space, the final frontier, and also the final point I want to talk about is also one of the other major changes done in the new update, and I'm really pleased with how black holes look like in this new update. Like, freaking amazing and beyond my wildest expectations. Once I encountered one, I was pretty much blown away, as I've already talked about on the second channel. But basically, this is how they look like. They also seem to have a really awesome effect that kind of pulls all of the light behind them within them, almost like in real life, I guess, or theoretically speaking. It kind of absorbs everything. Even the planet behind it almost seems like it's being eaten by the black hole, which I find to be so exotic and so dramatic that we haven't seen before. I definitely suggest placing a freighter very close to a black hole to kind of like take it all in. Definitely looks very spectacular. Another cool thing you'll find in deep space are some of these weather effects. So now you can encounter clouds that kind of have lightning strikes going on. They happen all over the place. This is especially true if you go in some of these oversized asteroid fields. Again, I was blown away when I saw how massive these are in the new update. And speaking of the asteroid fields, eventually you're going to encounter one of these scenes right here, where one or several ship NPCs will actually go in and start mining. They can do that in the new update. I'm really glad that there's more advanced AI systems being, yeah, kind of added over time in these new updates. Kind of looking forward to a lot more of these. I definitely think it rewards just going in and paying attention to the small details in such a vast universe. And of course, let's also not forget about the fact that there's also a quality of life change also affecting space. Now when you use your scanner, you will also get some of the nearby resources revealed, like the ones on asteroids. In this case, that would be the tritium clusters. I also found that to be really awesome, and it doesn't seem to work for the big asteroid fields, only for some of the small pieces that you will find around. overall, this is pretty much it with the update. Of course, there's tons of other changes that I encourage you to go ahead and check out. Of course, if you like noticed anything that I missed, totally let me know down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.